So, episode 10 of Tojima Wants to Be a Kamen Rider might be my new favorite episode in the series so far, because this episode went past my expectations with what I thought was going to happen and where I thought this tournament story arc was going to go. Because of the curveball that this tournament arc took, I think I love it even more because this sort of beat the expectations that usually happen in these tournament story arcs where the main character always wins, but that wasn't the case with this week's episode. So, Tojima Wants to Be a Kamen Rider episode 10, or Tojima Rider, whatever you want to call it. This is the third match of the tournament where we've got Tojima versus Yuriko. And I gotta say, the fight between these two was freaking amazing. The fight choreography, the hand-to-hand combat, the animation, the music, all of it was amazing. But this episode was also a good insight to Tojima and Yuriko's characters as well. Like, Yuriko probably had the most growth out of this episode, but Tojima, we kind of learn a little bit more about him in this week's episode. Although he didn't really say a lot apart from, ride a punch and ride a kick and stuff like that, we get to see his resilience and his determination as a Kamen Rider when he puts on that mask, because he gets the shit kicked out of him, his face is bleeding underneath that mask, and he just keeps getting back up again and keeps getting back up again and throwing punch after kick after punch after kick at Yuriko, and he is going non-stop. So it kind of shows that Tojima has that resolve of a hero or a Kamen Rider to keep fighting until he dies in the end. So I do want to know where that's going to go moving forward within the next couple of episodes, or probably within the next season or two, depending where the series is going to go, because if that guy was like that in a friendly tournament match where he was going all out, we have yet to see his full potential fighting up against another monster, like when he was able to knock down the spider monster with one punch. But Yuriko had some great character moments in this week's episode as well. Her resolve was great as well. She kept getting back up again. She was able to take punches from Tojima as well. And she had that moment where she screamed at the mountains about how Stronger couldn't save Tackle all those years ago when she watched that episode when she was a kid. So she finally got that off her chest. And it was just overall a really great episode to watch. And I know that most of my reviews are mostly recaps and play-by-plays of what happened in the episode, but doing a recap or a play-by-play couldn't do it justice with the action scenes we got in this week's episode. I mean, if I went over every punch and every kick that was thrown in this week's episode, I'd be here forever, because the fight scenes in this week's episode were so amazing. But not only that, we actually got to see Yukarisu actually able to see the aura that Tojima and Yuriko give off as sort of their rider spirits in a way that the others can see, but now she's able to see him as well. So that's an interesting note. But one thing they point out with Tojima is that they sort of say what keeps this guy going, and they sort of speculate, is this guy even human or not, which is, kind of a silly speculation. We know this guy's human so far from what we know of, but what keeps Tojima going is sort of his passion and his love for Kamen Rider. Because you have this scene where Mitsuba is able to figure it out and say, oh, it's his love for Kamen Rider, it's his passion for Kamen Rider that keeps him going. And he thanks Ichiyo for it because he probably thought that Ichiyo wanted to inspire Mitsuba even more by letting him fight Tojima, which I gotta say, kind of dodged a bullet there, mate. Tojima, after watching him in this week's episode, he would have wrecked you. He was relentless against Yuriko. He would have just knocked your block off, probably, if you guys went up against each other. But having Yuriko win this fight against Tojima, the main title character of the show, is so freaking unexpected and cool, because I was banking on Tojima to sort of clean sweep all the characters in this show. After he one-shotted Yukarisu, I thought that he was just going to make mincemeat of all the other riders in this tournament, but we'd still got some really cool fight scenes in the end. But having Yuriko sort of have that resolve, have that victory in the end, was really nice to see. She actually pulled through by doing all those sort of electrical wave tackles on Tojima that he eventually passed out from being bombarded by all those attacks. And seeing that she's going into the finals to fight Mitsuba, I'm really curious to see where that fight is going to go down, because we do get a glimpse of it with this week's episode preview for next week, next week's episode preview. But this episode was like probably hands down my favorite one so far from what we've seen, along with the first episode. I love the first episode of this show, but out of the fights we've gotten so far in the tournament arc, this might be one of my favorite fights. And there was a fun little silly gag at the end of the episode with Tojima where he was passed out and they put the mask on him and he suddenly gets revived and then they take it off and then, you know, he's knocked out again. So like the mask is like life support for the guy, and Yuriko so makes a joke saying like he's like a vegetable old man who just stares at pigeons in the park all day. So that was a fun little gag to end the episode on with Tojima, where like he's unconscious but he's also conscious when he wears the, like, he's unconscious when he has the mask off, but he's conscious when he wears the mask. So that was a fun little gag. So we'll see where that's going to go, because next week's episode there's probably going to be a lot to talk about. We've got the fight between Mitsuba and Yuriko, and not only that, we've also got Shocker making bear moves as well, which is something that I noticed a few episodes ago that I didn't bring up, but I'll definitely bring attention to it in next week's review. So with that said, I'll bring this video to a close. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I will see you next week for Tojima Rider episode 11.